جزاك الله خير brother Rahman. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Brothers and sisters, we always begin in the name of Allah, indeed the most gracious, most merciful. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send his peace and blessings upon our noble messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Greetings to you, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, from Madinatul Munawwarah, which is where I am now. And inshallah, I'll be returning next weekend. Without any further delay, what I like to do is share with you the screenshot, which is an extensive presentation on the logistics of Hajj. And you will find it to be useful in the sense that it will answer most of your questions. And so we will ask you that you refrain from asking any questions at this time until the end of the meeting. We'll give you plenty of opportunity to actually ask questions, and then we'll pick the top few questions to answer them. So, there it is. So please keep your questions to the end. And keep it to logistics and admin. Fiqh of Hajj type of questions really should be asked during the religious sessions and not at this time. So the agenda is very simply this. We'll start with Hajj services deliveries, but we start with the level set here. Responsibility for delivering Hajj services to you, pilgrims, lies with the Hajj service provider companies in Saudi Arabia. It is their responsibility to ensure all the airline accommodations in the kingdom, transportation in the kingdom, services in the camps, and much more are provided by them. They are the owner of this responsibility. What Dar Islam is doing is working hand in hand with them in a collaborative and a cooperative manner so that they provide the services that was supposed to be provided to you. But we are simply a guide. We're simply an advisor to them. We're simply a supporter to them. The Ministry of Hajj holds them responsible for delivering the services. The contracts are with them. And so we're simply there to guide them and help them and support them. And so bear that in mind, because when you see in the presentation that says we will have this done or we will have that done or our guide will be there, the we and the our really stands for the Hajj service providers working with Dar Islam in coordination or in cooperation with Dar Islam to actually provide the services to you. It's also important to understand that Hajj has many, many, many variables. We cannot all sort it out. I've been doing this for 3 decades now. I can tell you that things change because the Hajj instructions change or because new regulations come through. And so it's important to understand that this webinar is for the purpose of education only. That due to the nature of Hajj and the variability that's in it, that information that we're providing now could change, and it could change without any notice. And that's why this disclaimer is being talked about. The agenda consists of 3 things, literally, and then we'll have a Q&A in the end. One is called important considerations. What important considerations are that instead of telling you here are the things you should take or consider taking, is best to actually give you the context in which it is being said. So you won't see a checklist per se, you will see the things you should consider given this condition. And so that's what considerations are all about. Then I'll walk you extensively from the moment you depart from your home till the end of Hajj, step by step, the itinerary, a general Hajj itinerary. It doesn't talk about Mecca first or Medina first. It's the general Hajj itinerary, but it is geared towards those who are in the Almouisem camp. It is those who are in the Almouisem camp. It does not talk about Majal al-Kabsh, it talks about Almouisem camp. And the last one, what I call Pilgrim's Items Checklist, is like a checklist you can look at some point in time before departure, say, if I got this done, if I got that done, if I got that done, as such. And so I'm going to talk about it from that perspective, as opposed to a shopping list. Let's go. Let's start with the consideration of communication during Hajj. Number 1, everyone should be carrying a smartphone in Saudi Arabia, because a smartphone is required for you to have both WhatsApp as well as the Nusuk app. Not to be mistaken with Nusuk platform. When you went into hajj.nusuk.sa and registered yourself and filled it with e-wallet and purchased the package, that's the Nusuk platform. This is a Nusuk app that you download onto your phone, and it must be a smartphone. And you will then be invited also to a WhatsApp group that is specific to you. We've been in this large Telegram group, then we've been in this large group by service provider, and now we're going to break it down to individual groups that you will have with the group leader or imam assigned associated with that group, and make sure you join that group, because all of our communication during Hajj will all happen within that group. It's not possible to have one channel for everybody. It's going to confuse everyone. So you will know which group you're in, and you will know you'll be asked to join that group. And that group is the only one that is pertinent to you, because it will follow the itinerary, and the group leader will be in that group and communicate with you. So that's the reason why you need a phone with WhatsApp in it, and then you join that group. We'll send the invitations out. The Nusuk app we talked about will may be used for two things: to perform Umrah and to pray in the Rauda. And the reason it says to be determined is because we don't know if the Hajj service provider will ask for a group booking. It's unlikely to be, but let's say if he does, then this may not be relevant. But in the meantime, what you need to do is download the Nusuk app, and once you receive your visa, then go in the Nusuk app and register yourself. And when the time comes, if there is a need for you to create an Umrah permit based on your arrival in Mecca, then you can create that permit. And also the same thing for the Rauda. So to be determined, but you may need this app, and that's why you need to have a smartphone. Also, the reason why the smartphone must be unlocked, it comes into because let's say you want to use a local Saudi SIM. What are the options? Number one, you selected an option within the package that you configured with the Hajj service provider on Nusuk platform that you're going to get a SIM, in which case the Hajj service provider will provide you the SIM. So take a look at whether SIM was included in your package. If it is so, then they will provide it. What we don't know is when they will provide it. We just don't know that. Hopefully, it makes sense that this should be provided to you as soon as you arrive in the hotel. Whether it's Makkah, Bursa, Medina first, doesn't matter. It should be provided to you at that time. That's one option. Second option is that you want to purchase a SIM because you never selected a SIM from the Hajj service provider. And the third option is that you have your own plan from your home country. You have an international voice and data plan from the United States or Canada or Australia or UK. And in that case, you will use that. So if you are going to use a SIM from Saudi Arabia, your phone must be unlocked from your carrier. It cannot be locked to the carrier. And that cannot be done from Saudi Arabia. So you should make sure your phone is not tied to any carrier. It is unlocked such that you can change that carrier SIM and be able to install a local Saudi SIM. How do you do that? How do you purchase a local Saudi SIM? There are booths available for the carriers that are in Saudi Arabia. STC, Mobile, Zain, these are the three names that people know. And then they offer packages. They will offer, for example, Mobile offers a package for 15 gigs of data and 500 local minutes. They offer it for approximately 58 riyals, and that would be about 20 bucks US or $23 Canadian. So this reasonably priced, and 15 gigs is enough for you. So what you need mainly, what people need mainly is data plan as such. So you would have to go to them with your phone and either with a copy of your passport or a copy of your Hajj visa. Because when they issue the SIM, they tie it to your visa or to your passport. They encode that in the SIM. And that's why they need the copy, because the government wants the SIM not to be issued willy-nilly. It should be issued tied to a person. And that's how they tie it to you. So you'll need that plus the money. And there are booths available in the hotels, both in Medina and Mecca. That shouldn't be an issue, inshallah. Let's talk about communication during Hajj itself. When you're in Mecca and Medina hotels, they have Wi-Fi at no charge. Generally speaking, whichever hotel it is, they will give you Wi-Fi at no charge. However, you have to inquire upon arrival as to how to connect to their Wi-Fi. And there may be some usability and reliability issues depending on the bandwidth, location, the number of users, and the time of usage. If it is peak period, for example, you're praying Jummah and the Jummah just ended, everybody gets on their phone, you might find the network to be busy. You might find 1 o'clock in the morning network to be available. After every prayer, the network gets busy. So it all depends, when you're using it. And there's also the bandwidth that's installed in the hotel itself. So usability and reliability is dependent. I have not found any issues, and I've stayed mostly in Move and Pick Hotel and Hilton Hotel, and I've not found any issues with the Wi-Fi either in Medina or in Mecca. But then again, Hajj is a different story altogether, but it's available at no charge to you. I should also point out to you that if you are thinking, hey, I don't need a SIM because I can use WhatsApp calling feature. I can go there and the hotel's Wi-Fi is free. I can use WhatsApp calling feature to connect with someone back home. Well, WhatsApp calling doesn't work. It is actually blocked by the authorities here in Saudi Arabia. Unless you have a North American plan and you're calling another North American number, in which case I've seen WhatsApp sometimes works, calling from a North American number to a North American number. But if you're calling a Saudi number or from a Saudi number, does not work. It does not connect. But there are other apps that are available that you can use to make voice calls that you may have to download onto your phone. An example would be IMO. You can use IMO to talk to your family and loved ones with Wi-Fi, or even without Wi-Fi. If you already had a SIM, it will use their data plan, voice to actually use the internet to send your voice packages across. Okay. Now, Hajj is happening in June. It's going to be hot. So you plan for Hajj during hot weather. What do you do? One of the major issues that I've found over the years was that people don't drink enough. And I don't mean by just simply liquid, because when you perspire, you not only lose liquid, you also lose the electrolytes from your body. You need to replace those electrolytes. So make sure that you're able to seek medical advice and make sure you're able to carry some electrolyte salts with you. These pouches, there's powder in it, different flavors. You take a small bottle of water, those half a liter, 500 ml bottle of water, or even less, and just take this packet and put it inside and dissolve it, and you keep sipping at it. Because believe me, you'll need it. You will need it during the Mashayar. You will need it during the Manasik of Hajj. You need it definitely in Arafat and Muzdalifah, and when you're waiting in the, for example, in your camp, as such, and also Mina, depending, as such. But make sure you have them. Some people also take cold pack. I've seen some people they take it. That's why I put it in there. Others will actually take a water spray bottle and they'll fill it up with cold water from one of those insulated cooler that has pop in it. They'll take some water in it, or just plain water, and they will use that to spray themselves to cool down. Some people will take a towel and they will wet it in a cold water and then put it around the neck. So basically, these are the things that you will need to cool yourself down during hot weather. And the other one is to replace your electrolytes because of perspiration. Again, you will use it in Arafat. You will use it in Muzdalifah. And you will use it in Mina as needed, as such. The temperature outdoor is estimated, it's an average temperature of between 110 and 116 Fahrenheit or 43 to 45 Celsius. I should point out to you, last year on the main day of Arafat, the day of Hajj, the temperature in Arafat was 48 degrees Celsius. These are just average temperatures, historical temperature. Number 3, avoid prolonged exposure to the sun. Stay in the shade. People say I have to stand outside when I'm in Arafat. Yes, you do, but you can also stand inside the camp. You don't have to be outside. Or you can find a tree to stand underneath, or take an umbrella with you and stand underneath the umbrella. Just don't have to expose yourself to the sun. If you're sensitive to sunlight, one of those people that are really sensitive to sunlight and it'll burn their skin very easily, then take a perfume-free sunscreen lotion and put that on, especially during the Manasik of Hajj. Make sure it's perfume-free, because when you're in the state of Ihram, you cannot have any perfume on yourself. Number 5, pace yourself. What people do is they get so excited when they get here that they're spending no time to rest. They're basically getting up in the middle of the night to go for tahajjud, then staying for fajr, and coming back, and after praying fajr, they come and have breakfast. Then they have chit chat with roommates, and they may have a nap here, a nap there. You know what? You can do this 3 days, 4 days, and the 5th day you fall flat. And so you need to remember the main purpose is Hajj. And so don't get so worked up that you are going to spend most of the time in the haram that you actually become sick when the manasik of Hajj starts. So pace yourself. There's no one better to tell you how much time to spend and how much time to rest than yourself. Just listen to your body. Okay. Consider taking daily vitamins, supplements, that which will boost your immune system, right? Make you a bit stronger, protect you a little bit more from the local viruses and diseases because your immune system is strong, and also it gives you a boost of energy. Also, consider taking energy bars for use during manasik. I'm not eating much. I'm in Muzdalifah, so I might well just take a bar. An energy bar will give me energy to get me going for the time being. So consider that few bars you keep with you when you go to Mina and Arafat and Muzdalifah. Wear light clothes. For men it should be like a thobe, cotton thobe, shalwar kameez, or if you wear pants and shirt, make sure they're baggy pants, cotton pants, baggy pants that breathe, for example. For women, the same thing, shalwar kameez or baggy pants. And if the woman is wearing an abaya, then the dress underneath can be very, very light because you're not going to expose yourself unless you're in the room or with your mahram. So wear something very light because the abaya is going to cover it up anyway, as long as you're Islamically dressed. Make sure the dress code comes in handy as well because you don't want to trap heat in your body because your dress is heavy or doesn't breathe air properly. Cotton would be best. Make sure you don't be careful when purchasing food from street vendors. You can purchase food from the store or from the food court, but street vendors, I'd be careful in purchasing food, especially if you're in Mina. If there is some street vendors outside your camp selling stuff, I'd be careful with that as such, because you don't want any foodborne diseases at that time. Just make sure that there's enough food provided. There's breakfast and dinner. Normally people don't eat lunch, but if you're diabetic and you have to chew on something, just carry it with you, as opposed to having to buy something from the street vendor. In regards to wheelchair, several options to consider. Number one, I need a wheelchair during air travel at airports. Number one, when you get your ticket, call the airline and tell them for this ticket, I want you to make a note that I need wheelchair at the departure airport, at the transit airport, the arrival airport. If that doesn't work, then when you get to the airport, make sure you request assistance for wheelchair at every airport, and you'll have that assistance given to you for the wheelchair person to actually take you all the way down the jetway to the aircraft. Number two would be a person who could normally otherwise walk, but will need help in performing tawaf and sa'i. And this is where you actually arrange for a person who has a wheelchair that he will take you and perform tawaf and sa'i. He will push the wheelchair during tawaf and sa'i. What you need to do with such a person is to negotiate the rate, because always negotiation based on the crowd in the haram, and also negotiate the drop-off place. So when your Umrah is finished in Marwa, which will be too far away from your hotel, it's better to say, you know what, you're picking me up near the hotel, at the base of the hotel, you're going to drop me back right here, not in Marwa. And so what you do is you carry the money that you negotiated, but you don't pay the person until he takes you right back to the drop-off location. That's when you pay him at the end of the service. What that means is you have to carry some extra cash with you from home. Estimated cost is $100 to $120 US for each time you want to use them. So given a Hajj has tawaf and sa'i as the Umrah of arrival, then also a tawaf and sa'i if you're doing Hajj tamattu, which will be another tawaf and sa'i, that's two. And the final one will be Hajj, the tawaf al-wada, tawaf only. So for that, you need to make sure that you have extra cash with you if you're going to use wheelchair services with the person for this purpose. Number three, I need a wheelchair, but I have a family member to push the wheelchair. If you elected to purchase a wheelchair when you configured your package through Nusuk, do you need a wheelchair? If you said yes, then the service provider will provide you the wheelchair, and hopefully it'll provide you as soon as you arrive, so that shouldn't be an issue. But should you wish to purchase one and you have a family member to push it, then the wheelchairs are available in pharmacies anywhere in Medina and Mecca. Any pharmacy will have that. Approximate cost is $100 to $125. Own the wheelchair, keep the wheelchair in your rooms in Mecca and Medina, but take a bicycle lock with you, because when you're in Mina and Arafat, you may not have room for the wheelchair to be brought inside the tent. and you can't leave it outside just like that. So you take a bicycle lock with you and you secure the wheelchair against a post or a pole outside so that nobody borrows it without asking from you. At the end of Hajj, you can donate it so it remains a good deed in your name as somebody else will use that same wheelchair. The fourth choice is I need a wheelchair and I have nobody to assist me. Well, this is a tricky one because we don't have the answer to that. All we're asking you to do is send your request to Dar Islam's agent. We've listed the Dar Islam agents for the three service providers, Al Burj, Abdul Latif Jamil, and Sira Mawasin. You can send a request identifying who you are and say you need it, and you'll probably need it more so during the manasik of Hajj. This is where it gets trickier because you think that you might be paying for the labor for this person to push you in the wheelchair as he takes you from Mina to Arafat to Muzdalifah and back. But in fact, it's not just the labor you're paying for. You're paying for this person performing Hajj because he's going to actually stay with you in Mina. He's going to stay with you in Arafat. He's going to stay with you in Muzdalifah. He's going to eat the same meals as you're eating. So it's really, you're paying for somebody to perform Hajj. And so we don't know whether the Hajj service provider will have the permits from the relevant authorities to bring in these extra people for that purpose. And that's why we're saying, give us your request, we'll consolidate that and send it to the Hajj service provider and wait for the response. If it is possible, we'll let you know, and we'll also let you know what will be the additional cost. So those are the categories of wheelchair services. In regards to electrical power, Saudi Arabia predominantly runs on 220 volts. And the types of adapter plugs you will see on the wall are these two types, the one with the two round pins and the one with the three rectangular pins, the UK style, what I call. You'll find this in the hotels. Most of the time I found it to be the three rectangular ones. And so in which case you need to have an adapter that will have this pin go into the wall, and the backside will be the ability for your actual plug to plug in. And that's what the adapter is for. Now, I would say the best thing would be for you to already go out and buy a universal adapter on Amazon or wherever else you want to get it and bring it with you as opposed to coming here and looking for it as such. But remember, these are adapters. They don't really step down the power. They don't bring 220 down to 110. Those are converters. And most universal devices, worldwide devices, already have the converters built in. For example, your phone that works on both 110 and 220. The laptop. I'm not saying you should bring a laptop or iPad. So the reason I'm mentioning adapter versus converter is because if you're bringing an electrical device that we're not aware of, then make sure that it can handle 220. Adapter by itself won't work because if it's a 110 device, then you want to make sure there's a converter to bring 220 down to 110. And think twice whether you want to use it that way. Or you want to bring the device. We suggest strongly that you take power bank with you. And power bank that we suggest that you take with you that has at least 20,000 milliamps of power. Because the outlets in Mina are limited. There's not too many outlets out there. So especially when you're going to go from Mina to Arafat, the power bank must already be charged before you take it with you. In Arafat, you won't find too many outlets. At least you can charge your phone in Arafat and Muzdalifah until you're back to Mina. What you may also want to do is you may also want to take an extension cord that has at least 2 or 3 extension outlets associated with it. So you can plug in the extension cord to the few outlets in Mina, right, using the appropriate adapter, and now you have 3 of these other extensions that you can use or share with others around you. But we recommend you take the power bank during the 5 days of Hajj, inshallah. Now, in regards to hotel rooms and check-in, it's important for me to set your expectations correctly. Hotel room in Mecca and Medina, though they sell triple occupancy, they sell quad occupancy. The fact is the rooms only contain 2 standard beds. The room is meant for 2 standard beds, just like any hotel in the world, anywhere in the world, UK, Australia, Canada, United States, you go into a hotel, there'll be room for 2. But if you're a family of 3 or 4, you ask them for extra bed, they will bring it in. But those extra beds will be like a rollaway beds or a cot. The same thing applies. A quad occupancy in Mecca, for example, doesn't mean 4 standard beds. It means 2 standard beds and 2 rollaway beds. A triple would be 2 standard beds and 1 rollaway bed. And the reason we're mentioning it is very simple. Because when you have a quad occupancy, whether you're forced into it or you chose it on purpose, it means that you'll be going into a room that has temporary beds. And we don't actually assign beds to the person. We assign room to the person. So if you're in a quad room, we'll assign 4 people to that room. As to who uses the standard bed and who uses a temporary bed, that is up to the inhabitants of the room. We don't actually get into it, and you have to decide it. So don't get upset and alarmed when you say, hey, I walked in and I'm 6 foot tall and I get this rollover bed and I paid the same as the other guys. How come he has a standard bed? And I'm telling you this now. That's the way the hotel rooms are configured. Pretty well worldwide, right? 2 beds are temporary, 2 beds are standard. And you decide who gets what. And hopefully you'll be accommodating to those who are in need if you're sharing a room with an elderly person, etc. So that's up to you. I'm setting the expectation as to what the configuration looks like for a triple or a quad. Second thing is the check-in time. People travel for hours and hours and hours. You'll come in and land, and it'll be 24 hours that you've been traveling, and you're coming in at 10 o'clock in the morning, and you're saying, where's my room? Your flight's arrival time has nothing to do with the hotel's check-in time. The hotel's check-in time generally is 5 p.m. If you're arriving on the day you're checking in, and you're arriving early, you'll have to wait. You still have to wait. Oh, but brother, I traveled 4 hours. It doesn't matter. The guest is already in the room, has to leave. And they're pretty loose in enforcing it. People normally would leave after Zohar prayers, but sometimes it takes longer. They will leave around 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the afternoon. Then the rooms are assigned to be cleaned. Once it's clean, the message goes to the office downstairs that the rooms are now available. They then provide the rooms to the service providers, who then has a list of all the rooms, what he's looking for, and then he will assign that room number to one of those rooms. So it's a long process. That's why if you go in right now on Google and check any of the hotels that you're planning to stay in and look at their check-in time, you will not see any check-in time before 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock is check-in time. Okay, what does that mean? It means that you come in early on the day you're checking in, you may have to wait to get your room. If you're coming in after your check-in has begun, let's say some people are checking in on the 7th of June, which is the first of Hajj, but their flight is actually coming in on the early morning of the 8th of June. They should have no waiting time because their room would have been available from the 7th. But if you're coming in the day your check-in begins and you come in early, then they don't know that you have to wait. And we, the Hajj service provider, working with Dar Islam, will do their best to make up room to get your room available or keep you comfortable during the wait time. In regards to the luggage, I know people will say, what should I take or shouldn't I take? I will tell you what you need, and you can take something extra above and beyond. That's up to you. What you need are 3 things. You need a suitcase with your belongings in it. Everything, your clothes, your shoes, everything you think of you'll need over there, that should be in a suitcase. And the suitcase is a standard suitcase that the airlines check in. And normally in an economy class, that would mean the weight cannot be more than 23 kilograms or 50 pounds. That's one. But you'll say, brother, in North America, I'm allowed to take 2 suitcases. You're absolutely allowed to take suitcases. I'm telling you what you need, not what you want to do. Because the more you take, the more you'll have to handle it. So if you're taking 1 suitcase is what you will need, with clothes and toiletries and everything that you need. And you need 1 roll-on bag or hand carry luggage, the type of hand carry luggage that fits in the overhead compartment above the seat in the aircraft. Even that has a dimension restriction by the airlines and weight restriction. This one cannot weigh more than 7 kilograms or 15 pounds. And during Hajj days, they sometimes force you to weigh that hand carry at the airport at check-in time, or they force you to measure its size. If it's bigger than that, they'll say, sorry, you can't take it as a hand carry, it has to be checked in. So be careful, it has to be the right size, has to be the right weight, and you can take it, because what you will do is you will use this actual roll-on bag to be used in Mina and Arafat during the days of Hajj. Okay, that's why you're taking it. You're taking it now to Mecca or Medina, but when you're going to Mina, you don't take your suitcase with you. Your change of clothes and toiletries goes in the roll-on bag. Then you take a backpack, a standard backpack, because when you're traveling from Mina to Arafat and Muzdalifah, you're in ihram. You're going to come back in ihram. So there's no need to drag your roll-on bag all the way to Arafat and Muzdalifah. Just take a backpack, a very light backpack for the manasik of Hajj. We'll cover that in a bit more detail as to what the content of those things should be. Now let me walk you through manasik of Hajj itself. Itinerary. From departing for Hajj all the way till the end of Hajj, step by step. When you're departing for Hajj, you should be at the airport early. Most of those international flights will be full. So don't be sorry in coming in late. Just come in at least 3.5 hours, I say 4 hours before the check-in counter opens, and check in early. This is the time to resolve any issues with seats and stuff like that. Okay? Before. Number two, very important. If you're taking a domestic flight to an international port of departure, make sure that you check in your luggage at the domestic carrier only to the international port of departure and not all the way to Saudi Arabia. What I mean by this is that if you're taking a flight from Calgary to Toronto, and from Toronto you'll take Turkish Airlines to go to Saudi Arabia, from Calgary you'll take WestJet or Air Canada. That's one example. Another example could be if you're taking a flight from Columbus, Ohio to JFK, and from there you'll take Turkish Airlines. If the carrier at the domestic departure says, I'll take your luggage and I'll tag it all the way to Saudi Arabia, do not do that. Because it has happened far too many times. When the luggage arrives in the international port of departure, in the case of two examples I gave, it comes from Calgary to Toronto, it does not get transferred to Turkish Airlines in Toronto. Or in the case of Columbus, Ohio to JFK, it doesn't get transferred. You arrive here in Saudi Arabia and you don't find your luggage, you file a lost luggage claim. And we're going after Turkish Airlines. Hey, where's the luggage? And all Turkish Airlines can tell you is, I never got it. Because if the intra-airline transfer fails, Turkish Airlines will not know where your luggage is. The other carrier will say, well, I delivered it, but he will not know where the luggage is. We've seen it too many times that, the luggage is found when you're returning back home. It was sitting at the airport because it did not work between the two airlines. Right? Sometimes you have to convince them that it's there and somebody traces it, but you're not spending too many times in Medina and Mecca anyway for somebody to go and trace it and find it, and you've already left. So what I suggest to you is that if you're taking a domestic flight to an international departure, check your luggage only to the international port of departure. Examples I gave you, you will check your luggage from Calgary to Toronto and go and claim it in Toronto. Then you'll walk over to Turkish Airlines counter and give them the luggage to check in and have their baggage tag. Now you know you have given it to them and not relied on some transfer between airlines. Same example would apply to people going from the United States. That would be the prudent thing to do. That would be my recommendation. If you are going to go to Mecca first, as you're flying in, make sure you have your ihram and the accessories in your carry-on bag, and make sure that you prepare yourself physically. The ghusl, the trimming of nails, the removing of pubic hair, all that happens at home, and you take your ihram with you. You will change into the ihram garments either in the transit airport, which applies to all airlines, whether it's Turkish Airlines, it'll be Istanbul, it'll be Emirates, will be Dubai, it'll be Qatar, will be Doha. Or if you're flying non-stop directly on Saudi Airlines, then you'll change into the ihram garment on the aircraft in the backside where they pray. And that's where you will change for Saudi Airlines. The rest of the airlines will be at the transit airport. So you will simply change the garment and then board the subsequent flight. I've come to Istanbul and I have changed into ihram garment. I boarded the flight now to go to Jeddah. I'll be sitting in my ihram garment in the plane. I will not change in the plane. I will definitely not change in the toilet of the plane, because if they're so small, you'll likely spoil your ihram. You'll soil it. You can't do that. So you have to do it outside before boarding that flight. And when the pilot announces that the miqat is coming in the next 20 minutes, we're approaching the miqat in the next 20 minutes, You don't wait for 20 minutes. You just sit in your seat and you make the intention. Labbaik Allahumma umrah, and you're ready and start saying the talbiyah. You're in the state of ihram. Right? For the women, there is no specific garment for them to wear. So they will do their physical cleaning and ghusl at home, and they wear the appropriate Islamic attire from home to go to the airport. They depart with that, and that's the garment they're going to enter into ihram with when they announce that the miqat is approaching. Let's say you now arrive in Medina directly from USA, Canada, or UK, or Australia. You're going to go through typical airport passport immigration control. They'll stamp your passport, they'll take a picture, they'll have your fingerprints, and you go through passport control, go into baggage claim, you pick up your bag, make sure you pick your own bag. It has happened often that you pick that red bag because you had a red bag, but you picked somebody else's bag. Make sure you read the label before you pick the bag. And should you not find your bag, don't leave the airport restricted area. Don't leave the customs area without going to baggage services and filing a lost luggage report. We will need that report. The service provider will need the report to follow up with the airline. Without the report, service provider or Dar es Salaam cannot follow up with the airline. So don't leave the area without a lost luggage report before you leave the custom in the restricted area. If you're carrying a green card or a PR card or permanent resident card, make sure you keep it safe. Don't hand it over with your passport in Saudi Arabia. Nobody needs it over there. The only purpose of this card is that you can safely return back to your home country. And they will only ask for it when you're checking in at the airline on the return trip, that you have residency permit to go home. And that's the only reason you need it. So keep it safe. When you arrive in Medina, the service provider, along with Dar es Salaam, coordinating with Dar es Salaam, will direct you to the appropriate bus based on your destination hotel. And you will carry your luggage, or they will guide you how to get the luggage over to the bus. Make sure you keep the valuables with you, and then have the bus luggage loaded in the bus. Okay. However, if you're one of those that arrived in Medina, that's the case with Abdul Latif Jamil, I believe, but your program starts in Mecca, in which case the representative from Abdul Latif Jamil, along with Dar es Salaam, will meet you at the arrivals hall after customs and will transfer you to Mecca. How? Don't know yet. Either by bus or Haramin train, depending on what's available when you arrive. If you arrive in the middle of the night, the trains don't run, for example. So we don't know what will be provided, and will be provided at that time. And through time, as we get closer to departure, it'll become more clear as to what kind of a conveyance will be provided for you to go to Mecca. You still will have your ihram with you in your hand carry, because now you have to change your ihram at Medina airport before you move on, because the miqat for Mecca when leaving from Medina is basically 5 minutes outside the city. Brothers and sisters, these are the hotels in Medina. I want you to take a look at it. We've shared this before. You can see which hotel you are at. Now, the white that you see in the courtyard are the umbrellas that are open during the daytime to shade the marble floor from the heat of the sun. The court is surrounded by a metal fence, and the gate has a number. Each gate has a number. So become familiar with the direction to Masjid Nabawi and how do you get to the hotel. Make a note of the gate number you enter to the courtyard of Masjid Nabawi. Make sure you attend your scheduled religious lectures in the hotel. Make sure you follow the instructions for ziyarah of Medina when we go in the bus to Quba and Uhud and Qiblatain, etc. All of the administrative guidance will be provided by a group leader, but we'll provide it in at the right time. We don't want you to drink from a fire hose. You'll have your itinerary posted, what's going to happen each day, but the specifics of the itinerary will be posted the day before, because there's no way you can retain all of that. So the day before will tell you how your luggage moves. The day before will tell you where to meet ziyarah and how we're moving to Mecca. And all that communication will happen through your group WhatsApp. It's important that you're part of the WhatsApp group. Don't ignore it when you're asked to join. Join it, because that's where the communication will be throughout the Hajj period. When you're departing from Medina to Mecca, we will ask you for your checked luggage to be transferred. Because departing from Medina to Mecca after having stayed in Medina first, right, will have your checked luggage more sent out earlier, um, or it'll be collected much earlier. Make sure you're prepared appropriately, and make sure you don't also put outside your hand carry luggage or your medicine or your valuables with your checked luggage, because checked luggage is now going to go separately than your hand carry. You should always have your hand carrying valuables and medicine with you. Let's say you're arriving directly from United States or Canada or UK into or Australia into Jeddah. Again, the same thing. Customs may take longer, depends on how many flights are ahead of you. You're still responsible after immigration or passport control to collect your luggage through customs. Make sure you pick your own luggage. Make sure in case your luggage, God forbid, is lost, you file a lost luggage report and get a copy of the report. Hajj service provider, along with Dar Islam, in coordination with Dar Islam, will be there to assist you upon exiting the customs hall, but you always keep your valuables with you. You always keep your green card, PR card, if you have one of those. Most people don't. Most people are carrying their own passports. Make sure you keep it safe. If you're going to Mecca, you're already in Ihram, because you arrived directly in Jeddah and you have been in Ihram. The transportation is arranged by a third-party service provider. It may not be the transportation from your Hajj service provider, because transportation in the airport is controlled by another authority within the government. And so we go tell them I have 45 people going to this hotel, and they will provide a bus, right? So it is by destination hotel. And again, Hajj service provider and Dar Islam in coordination will work and arrange the bus. Now, the distance to Jeddah from Mecca is 45 miles, right? You feel like you've just traveled for 24 hours plus, and now you're 45 miles away. But because of all of this process, I want you to know that it takes an average 5 hours to get to your hotel after you've arrived in Jeddah, because of all of the process you go through. That's the average. It could be more, it could be less. So make sure you are aware of it and you set your expectations accordingly and exercise patience. If, on the other hand, you landed in Jeddah, the program starts in Medina, that's the way the ticket was. Same thing. The representative from Abdul Latif Jameel, which is where most of this issue is, will meet you in arrivals hall along with Dar Islam representative. We'll coordinate this thing and we'll transfer you to Medina either by bus or Haramain high-speed train, depending on what's available when you arrive in Jeddah. These are the hotels in Mecca that represents all the program that we have. Anjum Hotel is by Abdul Latif Jameel. Montana is the Sheikh Yasir Qadi's package with Abdul Latif Jameel. But most of the other packages through Al Burj and Sina Mawasim is in Swiss Hotel. Fairmont is Al Burj, and then you have Swiss Maqam. It's the same thing. You become familiar how to get to the Haram and back. Either you're going to walk into with King Abdul Aziz Gate or you're going to walk in from King Fahd Gate. But whichever gate you walk into, be conscious of the gate. There's a number and the name. Because once you're inside, you will see direction to that particular name. And that's exactly where you have to exit in order for you to be able to go back to your hotel. Brothers and sisters, once you perform your Umrah, please rest and pace yourself. Like I mentioned before, people become sick because they're so eager to spend most of the time in the Haram. They don't sleep well. And as a result, it can last only 3 or 4 days and then they fall flat. Make sure you're healthy and strong for the manasik of Hajj. After Umrah, rest. Pace yourself. When you're going to the Haram in Mecca, make sure you provide extra time for prayers. You cannot walk into the Haram 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour before the prayer times. It always will be full. You have to go there at least an hour before the prayer times. And most people, when they go for Maghrib prayers, for example, They stay there because Maghrib and Isha, the difference is only an hour and 15 minutes. They come back after Isha prayers. So allow for extra time when you're going to the Haram for prayers. Again, all communication as to what to do, when to do, will be on WhatsApp that you should be part of. Now you're checking out of the hotel. You're in a shifting program. In other words, I have to leave the hotel as my monastic is beginning. I don't retain the hotel room. That's what the shifting programs are. You'll pack your belongings for stay in Mina, Arafat, Muzdalifah in your hand carry luggage. So out of your suitcase, do the change of clothes. So you have to think through. I'm leaving now. I have my ihram with me. I'll wear my ihram before I go to Mina. I'll stay in ihram on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. I'll stay in ihram on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, which is the day of Arafat. And on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, I'll come back, and that's the day of Eid. So I need to have a change of clothes for that, because I'll shower and change into those clothes. And that should be one of your best clothes. But you need to celebrate Eid, you need to celebrate completing the most important pillar of Hajj, which is standing in Arafat. Make sure you have the best clothes. That's one change of clothes. That's the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. Will you change again on the 11th? Maybe you will, maybe you won't, or maybe 12th. Maybe you should take another set or maybe another 2 sets of clothes with you in your hand carry luggage as such. And that's how you actually plan. Plus your toiletries, don't overpack it. Plus your meds, the Quran, and take out your backpack because you're going to get that ready as well. But we will pick up your checked luggage because you're no longer going to be in that hotel. So your checked luggage will be taken into your next destination after Hajj. And so we'll pick that up. And now you don't have checked luggage. So you have to be very careful in what you're packing for Mina. And make sure you put your checked luggage outside the room on time. So if you don't want us to take away your checked luggage, and you won't be able to find it, it'll be stored during the manasik, then make sure you don't put your hand carry any valuables that you will need during that time. If on the other hand, you're in a non-shifting program, you retain your hotel room during the manasik of Hajj, then you basically decide whether you're going to leave for Mina or you're going to go straight for Arafat. Look at the third point. You may be given an option to skip Mina on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah and go straight to Arafat from your hotel. That's okay. You're skipping a sunnah, but there is no penalty. There is no fidya. There is no sacrifice to offer for this. And locals do this all the time. They actually put on their ihram, make the tawaf, and then go straight to Arafat. If you want to take that option, then you don't need to take your roll-on bag. Why? Because you're going to go in ihram to Arafat, then Muzdalifah. You're going to come back to your hotel. That's where your change of clothes is going to be. You're going to shower and change in your room because you retain your room. You just need a backpack. Such. Again, it'll all come clear when time gets closer, and what you elect to do is to what to pack for Mina and Arafat. Okay. Always keep your valuables safe inside the room while you're in the manasik of Hajj, because you have your room. Then you'll ask me, Brother Azhar, what about those who are in the shifting programs? What about their valuables? Well, we're working with the Hajj service provider because Dar Islam used to do this. Dar Islam used to take the risk of collecting valuables from people, from the pilgrims, and storing it on their behalf so they go to manasik of Hajj worry free. We're working with the Hajj service provider to see if they would do that. And if they do, this is how it would work. That on the day before you leave for Mina, we'll ask you to meet us at a certain place. Normally it's in a restaurant at a certain time. And we'll give you plastic bags and you'll take your valuables. You'll put your passport, if you have it still with you, debit card, credit card, wallet, whatever it is, seal it, put your name on it, your ID on it. We'll actually accept that as a deposit and have you sign for it. And now you can go to the manasik of Hajj, not worrying about your valuables in your hand carry or even in your checked luggage that was picked up. So that's a service we're working on. And for those who are in the shifting program, and you'll pick that up after the manasik is over. For those in non-shifting, just leave it in your hotel safe. Mina camp. This is the part that I need to explain as to where it's at. You are in the Almouisem camp, the further camp, Camp C. You can see there's a fair distance between Muassim and Jamarat, but the distance is through the mountains when it comes to going to the Jamarat as such. And it's not a 3D map. You could see the mountains in between, but there's mountains. That brown area in between are all mountains, right? Tent space is allocated for each person in the camp. There are no extras. It's not a matter of walking in there and there's a couple of extras here and there. I'll take this or I'll not take that. Each person will be assigned space. This is your spot. A foam sleeper chair, which is fancy name for a chair that is unfolded into a bed which has a foam filling in it, plus a pillow and cover and a blanket is given to each person. And you will be in the designated tent and bedding by program. So if you're in a particular program, your group will be together, inshallah. So if I am managing a group of 45 and I have 20 men and 25 women, those 20 men will be together in a designated men's tent, and those 25 women will be together in a designated women's tent. Sometimes they split up. They don't sometimes have, they're all not all together. It might be, 20 in one tent and 5 in the other tent, but the men and women will be in separate tents. What to take a minute, a roll-on hand carry bag with you, okay? Change your clothes, a bath towel. It's important for you to have a bath towel because they don't provide that. When you're taking a bath in Mina or shower in Mina, you will need that. Toiletries, toothpaste, toothbrush. I'll go through that in a bit in the list. And any other essential item you need. The idea is you're not taking a suitcase, you're taking a hand carry bag, and you're also taking a backpack because you're going to leave your hand carry in Mina when you go to Arafat. And the backpack will contain small things like prayer mat, Quran, dua book, medicine, etc. Bathrooms are North American style toilets. Not necessarily all of them are hole in the ground. Ceramic tiles, there are showers built into the toilet. Meals have catering stations for respective Hajj program. There are lineups. Lineups have to be managed. Group leaders will manage the lineup so that people come out of their camp, line up for the meal, and take the meal and go back into the camp in a method so that the line is not too long, but there will be lineup. There will be a variety in meals. Men's meal station will be separate from women's meal stations. And what we want you to do is remain hydrated. So hot and cold drink stations will be everywhere. You'll have insulated coolers throughout the camp, one with water, one with juice, one with pop. And you have tea and coffee stations throughout because we want you to drink as much as possible and remain hydrated. The expected outdoor temperature, I keep showing you that so that you understand that it's going to be hot. Please help keep the camp clean. Dispose the garbage outside in the provided bins. And when it comes to prayer times, make sure you fold up the foam sleeper chair because the prayers will be held inside. The lectures will be held inside. So you can have proper congregational prayers. The separate bathrooms for men and women. And again, use common sense. Think out of the box. If you show up 20 minutes before Salah, there'll be a long lineup. But if you showed up an hour and a half before Salah and remained in wudu, there will be not much of a lineup. So think in those terms when you're thinking about when to go to the toilet. But please do not put toilet paper and stick it inside and jam it up, or sanitary napkins and diapers and the like. Make it clean, keep it clean, and make sure it's clean for this next person. Do not wash your clothes in the bathroom. Do not leave here. I've seen men, bend over in the sink and shave their own head and they jam the sink. Don't do that. Make sure it's usable for the next person. I've seen people who do not want the ihram anymore. They're not going to take it home and they dump the ihram on the bathroom floor, soaking wet. That's not nice. Make sure that our ihrams are disposed in the bins provided. Just make sure you look after that place. Get plenty of rest. You will need it. Definitely you will need it when you're in the state of ihram before going to Arafat. And then you will need it when you come back from Arafat because you'll be exhausted between stay in Arafat and overnight in Muzdalifah. Best to stay away from idle talk and dhikr. Just engage in dhikr. Don't engage in idle talk. When you're in ihram, those fleeting moments, a day or two in ihram, devote that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People in the camp in the back, Almouisem camp, will use air-conditioned buses during manasik. And not only will they use air-conditioned buses during Manasik, it's when they're going to use it. All the service providers in that camp will have a meeting in which we'll divide up the timing and develop a schedule. When this group leaves, when the other group leaves, when the third group leaves, and they will board the buses based on that developed schedule. Buses will be shuttle services. It will take them, there'll be few buses running, dropping them off to Arafat, coming back to pick up the next batch. So you know what that means is that you will have to wait your turn for transfer from Mina to Arafat. Just be patient. Here's an example of an area within the camp itself where people are seated. You can see the buses on the right side. They're seated in here, so nobody rushes the bus. And when the bus comes in, they will go out and calmly board the bus. And that would have been decided between the service providers as to what the priority and the sequence should be by group. And that's how the departure will be. Your group leader will advise you of the departure time. Don't crowd the main gate as if like somebody's going to leave you behind. Nobody's left behind. Just stay in your camp. But brother, my wife is in the other camp and I'm in the other camp. How do I know she's? You'll have plenty of time to gather in that holding area. The wife will be with the husband. You make sure the families are together. Don't be among those, I don't know where my wife is, but it's okay, she'll find her way. Don't do that. If you're traveling as a family, make sure you travel as a family. Even if you're going from Mina to Arafat and Muzdalifah, etc. You'll have plenty of time for that. Stay in your tents until you're advised to go to the front gate in the holding area and take only the essentials. Don't take the roll-on bag. You're in Ihram. You're going to come back in Ihram. So what do you need? Oh, I need Quran and the prayer rug, medicine, some extra couple of bottles of water. It's important that you remain hydrated. If you're going to plan and stay the entire night in Muzdalifah on the way back, make sure you don't take the bedding from Mina, because the Hajj service providers have said they're providing sleeping bag or mat. Use that instead of taking anything from Mina, because they're not going to replace it. If you soil it or lose it, they're not going to replace it. But then why do you lug it, carry it with you all the way? They're providing you something easier to carry. Arafat will be accommodated separately. Arafat will be a large tent. And men will have separate tents and women will have separate tents. They'll have industrial air conditioning. We have indoor carpeting. There's some outdoor areas for them to sit as well. North American style toilets, open buffet breakfast and open buffet lunch, and cold drinks and water to ensure you remain hydrated. I should point out to you, last year when I went for Hajj, you walked into the camp, into the tent in the morning after we came from Mina. It was nice and cool. So what they'd done is they turned the AC on at midnight and closed the tent so it remained nice and cool. And plus it was nighttime. As the day progressed, it became warmer because the front door, the flap was opened up. People were going in and out. So I had a complaint from the sister's tent saying the AC is not working. Brother Azhar, come and see the AC is not working. So I took a technician with me. The ACs were working. It was set at 16 Celsius, which is about 60 degrees. And it was working as hard as it can. It's just that it could not raise the temperature because A, the front of the camp was open, people were going in and out, and B, it was the middle of the day. The temperature inside was 36 degrees. The temperature outside was 48. So it's not that the AC was not working. Under the circumstances, the AC was doing the best it can, given the heat already of the people, and of course above is just a tent. It's not insulated, and so it's going to be hot. And I want you to prepare for it. I want you to mentally prepare for it, which is why we want you to remain hydrated. We want you to put those electrolyte salt in the bottle of water and drink it. I consumed 3 half-liter bottles in an hour and a half in the camp than I was in Arafat. So I could feel better because I was just constantly perspiring because of the heat. Arafat is also the day of Hajj. It's your main reason why you're going, the main reason you're putting in the effort and spending the money. So when you get there, people are on a high, if you will, right? They want to stay up. Don't. If you're tired, get some rest. Get some sleep. in the morning. Get up around 11 o'clock and then use the bathroom before it gets busy. And then you're ready now for the Dhuhr and Asr prayer and the khutbah of Arafah because you've had some rest. Then you can engage in individual supplication. Stand up and make your wukuf of Arafat. Because later on in the evening, there will be group supplications where an imam will lead the du'as, but you should have your individual supplication. There's no need to go outside. There's no need to go to mountain, Jabal Rahmah. Because the Prophet ﷺ said the entire Arafat is a place of standing. Stand just in Arafat because you are rehearsing the day of judgment. It's almost like that. People who are buried in shroud are coming out of their graves in shroud because that's what it looks like. Two pieces of cloth that men wear for ihram and pleading to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness and mercy. And that's resembling the day of judgment, the rehearsal of day of judgment. And so you remember you're part of that. And you stand there and make wukuf to the best of your ability, but stay within the gated compound. Do not go outside. The entire camp is actually inside Arafat. And it's one of the worst places to get lost. Don't risk it. We will depart from Arafat to Muzdalifah again by shuttle bus, again based on when it is allotted to us as to when this group will depart. And so I'm letting you know that even though people say as soon as Maghrib happens, you leave for Muzdalifah. Well, you might be staying for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours after Maghrib because your turn hasn't come. That shuttle bus is going between Arafat and Muzdalifah, picking up from Arafat, dropping up in Muzdalifah based on a schedule. And so just be patient. You will get to Muzdalifah. But in the meantime, remain hydrated. Muzdalifah has a separate area for our pilgrims in Almouisem camp. It will be carpeted, but most people misuse it. They take far more space for themselves. People want to separate gender, women on one side, men on the other side. Some men will insist, no, I don't want my wife to be over there. And it messes up the whole thing. But there'll be a space for you. Plus, it's only a few hours that you're there. You go there, make wudu, and pray Maghrib and Isha combined. And then you collect some stones. And then you try and get some sleep. Right? And you use the sleeping bag or the mat that's provided by the Hajj service provider. It is one of the easiest and the worst place to get lost. If you get lost, somebody comes to you as a group leader saying such a person lost, I have no idea what to do. I can send 3 more people and lose 2 more. I don't know where to look. So what normally happens when the person who gets lost finds his way or her way back because it goes to authority, who goes to another authority, finally takes them, find out who they are, what your group is. But sometimes it has taken a day and a half to 2 days before they're found. So there's no point in leaving the group. Just stay in that area and you'll be with the group, inshallah. In Muzdalifah, there are 2 departures. Women, children, elderly, weak, sick people are allowed by the Prophet ﷺ to leave after spending half the night in Muzdalifah. So there will be a departure at around midnight, early AM, and the rest will stay until Fajr, and they will depart after Fajr. So there'll be 2 departures. You make sure that you're with the right group. If you want to leave in the middle of the night, you go with the middle of the night group. You want to leave till after Fajr, you'll go after the Fajr group. What you cannot do is you say, I'm going to go after Fajr, and once the middle of the night group have left, you say, oh, I changed my mind. Well, there's nobody else leaving, and I can't allow you to go by yourself. So make sure you stay with the right group. Going for Tawaf al-Ifada or Tawaf al-Wada or end of Hajj, air-conditioned buses will be used between the camp and Mina and to the Haram. Shifting programs, the bus schedule will be prepared after you come back from Muzdalifah as to when you will go to Haram. We'll have to find a place where you'll be dropped off, a specific place where you'll be dropped off and picked up. So the bus will drop you off there. You'll go make wudu. If and then you go to the Haram, you perform the Tawaf al-Ifada, you come back to that place and the bus will pick you up from there. And that will be based on the schedule. So you'll perform Tawaf al-Ifada by bus. It's all subject to road conditions. If you're on an unshifting program, you will be going between Mina and your hotel a few times, twice actually. So you can perform Tawaf al-Ifada anytime you are in your hotel room. What we'll do is we'll take you the day of Eid when you come back from Muzdalifah. You'll be in Ihram. We'll take you then to your hotel room. You can come out of Ihram, the ghusl and change, and you have to come back the same day before Maghrib because it is wajib that you spend more than 50% of the night in Mina. So you come back to Mina in your camp before Maghrib, stay beyond midnight. Once half the night is passed, then you go back to your hotel early morning of the 11th. And then you come back before Maghrib to throw the stones at the Jamarat for the 11th of Dhul Hijjah. And this time you don't go back, you stay overnight. And the next day you throw the stones in the morning and then go and your Hajj is over. Again, all of this will come out more clearly through time. Going to the Jamarat can be crowded at times, especially coming from Almouisem, it's a long walk. The group leader will advise you when to go, and they will normally go as a group. Please don't go individually. Walking to the Jamarat is about 45 to 50 minutes each way. Please take an umbrella if you're going in the daytime and stay hydrated. Water bottles. Water bottle with some electrolyte salt in it. 2 water bottles. Just take that with you. Here's an example or a picture that I'm sharing with you. Shows, for example, where the camp Almouisem is. You're going to walk through, and then there's a tunnel through the mountain that brings you to the Jamarat. This is a closer view. Tunnel through the mountain will bring you one tunnel to bring, another tunnel to take you back, bring you to there. Then you go around and you throw the stones, all the 3 Jamara, and then you go around and back to the tunnel. And that one way coming to the Jamarat is 45 to 50 minutes. Another way going back is another 45 to 50 minutes. At the end of Hajj, if you're on a shifting program, you will stay in the camp till the 13th of Hajj, and then you'll go to Azizia. And then from there, if you're in a program that already stayed in Medina and now departing from home, you will leave from Azizia to the airport based on your flight departure, right? You'll perform tawaf al-wida based on that, and then you'll go from there to the airport. If you're going to go to Medina, because you have not been to Medina, this is the Makkah first program, then you'll return to Medina most likely on the 14th of Dhul Hijjah by bus or high-speed train to be confirmed by the Hajj service provider. By the way, don't forget to pick up your valuables that were collected if you chose to participate in valuable safekeeping, because we want you to take it with you after Hajj is over and not keep it with us. If you're a non-shifting program, you already have your hotel room, your Hajj is over on the 12th of Dhul Hijjah, and then you can perform tawaf al-ifada anytime before leaving Makkah, whether you're leaving Makkah to go to Jeddah airport because you have already stayed in Medina before Hajj, or you're leaving Makkah to go to Medina because you're going to go to Medina after Hajj. Either way, you have to make the wada based on that. And again, the transfer to Medina can be by bus or high-speed train, is to be determined by the service provider. We'll know more as time goes on. Brothers and sisters, you can always bring Zamzam with you. Liter Zamzam will be provided for adult. It'll be pre-packed for checking in at the airport. Make sure you pick it up before your check-in process. It'll be given to you before your check-in process, and there'll be no charge for the Zamzam to arrive at your first point of arrival. Not domestic carrier within the country, but just the first point of international arrival. Dried dates are not an issue. For those who want to bring dried dates into the United States, Canada, or UK, or Australia, make sure it is packed and you declare with customs that you're bringing in food and that it's dried dates. They're all aware of it. What I want to do now is quickly go through the pilgrim's item checklist, and then we'll open it up to the questions afterwards. So this is more of a checklist that you can mark off. Do I have this with me? Travel documents. Valid passport? Yes, it is. Make and keep a copy with you. God forbid if you lose the passport over there. At least you have a copy they would take to the consulate of the country, have them issue the papers. You might be staying there for a few days until the papers are issued, but at least you have a copy of your passport. Make sure you take a copy of your Hajj visa. Make sure you take, if you are one of those that has a green card or PR card, make sure that you also take a copy of that besides taking the original one. Make sure you have a copy of the airline ticket, and make sure you have proof of vaccination against meningitis, specifically groups ACYW35. When it comes to cash, we're suggesting $500 for incidental expenses. For example, we're providing 2 meals, breakfast and dinner. But if you want to buy a third meal, or if you want to go to Masjid Aisha, you want to do, it's just an estimate of what you might want to use. It does not include gifts, for example. But please, if you're taking cash, take large bills, relatively newer looking bills, $100 denomination, because the money changers will give you a lower rate or a lower denomination. I remember taking $150 with me. I got 4 reals less for the $50 bill than I did exchange rate wise than I did for the $100 bill. And oh, by the way, if you wanted to use the paid wheelchair services, so the person with the wheelchair taking you for tawaf and sa'i, then you need to carry extra cash with you. I mentioned already there'll be 3 occasions, so you need to take extra cash based on that. If you're going in a, this is a checklist. Do you have a ihram with you? No, I'm in a Medina First program. I'll get it over there. Do I have my slipper to go with the ihram? No, I need to take that with me. Do I need the belt to tie the ihram? Most people don't, but if you need to tie a belt, you can use any belt, even the belt that has to use to tie your pants with, you can use that. Suitable money belt. Some people don't use money belt because they move from one safe to the other, but if you want to have one, you can. Remember, if you're going to Mecca first, these things will be in your hand carry luggage. But if you're going to Medina first, then the ihram will be given to you, Medina. But you need to carry the slipper and the belt or suitable money belt if you need to actually have those. Consider this more of a memory jogger. Do I need it? Don't I need it? For women, there is no specific requirement for footwear. None. They can wear sneakers. They can wear closed shoes. They can wear sandals. It's up to them. There is no defined requirement for footwear for women. Whatever is comfortable and suitable. But it is preferable they don't stay bare feet. They should actually have their socks on. For men, though, there's specific requirement for footwear. Number one, the ankle or the heel must be exposed. And according to the Hanafi madhab, that ankle and the heel and some of the cuneiform bone, which is the front bone, must be exposed. So while you see the Crocs that works for the Shafi'is, it does not work for the Hanafis. And so the bottom ones is what works for the Hanafis. The flip-flops and the other sandal, where you're exposing both some parts of the cuneiform bone and the heel. Those who cannot wear required footwear due to medical reasons, please consult your sheikh as to how to manage that or whether a fidya is applicable or not. You can take your personal needs item. Is to brush. I carry half a bar of unscented soap in a dollar store plastic dish with me, so I can wash my hands in an unscented soap while I'm in ihram. I'll take that with me to Mina and to Arafat and to Muzdalifah. So I keep my hands washed and I have unscented soap for that. Nail clipper, small scissor, hair comb, anything that you need. At least a bath towel, not necessarily a hand towel, but at least that for Mina is not provided. Just take a few packets of Kleenex with you. And as I mentioned, light clothing, cotton clothing for hot weather. For camping kit, make sure you have your carry-on bag, the one that goes in the above compartment, above the seats in the plane, which has a dimension. Height, width, and length must be 45 inches, and it cannot carry more than 15 pounds or 7 kilograms. A backpack for use in Arafat and Muzdalifah and Mina. Sunglasses is going to be pretty bright, and preferably with a neck strap so that it falls off your face, at least it hangs on your neck and doesn't fall and break. If you wear prescription glasses and you cannot be without it, then take an extra pair in case you lose one or one breaks. Prayer mat and small Quran. Those are suggested camping kit items when you are actually out there in Mina and Arafat. Now, this is a general medicine needs. It doesn't mean you go purchase each one of them. That's not the intent here. These are over-the-counter drugs, just as a memory jogger for you. You decide what you need and then buy accordingly. These are available in Saudi Arabia as well, maybe a different brand name. If you're prone to air sickness, you may want to look at Gravol. If you take a particular type of aching medicine, headache medicine, for example, then take one of them. Vaseline is something that the men will put on their inner thighs because when they're in ihram and they walk that walking actually chafes the thigh and becomes very painful. Diarrhea medicine, just in case, but you can also buy it in the pharmacy over there. Face mask, not necessarily to wear during the ihram, but if you wear during the state of ihram, most will tell you have to give fidya or atonement, not necessarily sacrifice, but some feeding the poor. Rehydration, electrolyte tablets or powder drinks. That's very important that you need to have that with you. Again, there will be a medical advice webinar in May. Make sure you attend that. If you're taking prescription medicine on a regular basis, make sure you take sufficient medication that you're normally required to take. If I'm going for 10 days, I'll actually pack 15 days. Okay? Not 20 days, 15 days worth. If I have certain medical conditions that I've listed, diabetes, asthma, heart condition, then I'll speak to a physician, my physician, to seek advice as to how best to manage all of those conditions while I'm there. If you're allergic to specific drugs or have a medical condition, at least write it on a piece of paper, or at least wear a medical alert bracelet that will tell us that you have some condition that we should be aware of. Should, God forbid, you're found unconscious, we'll know the conditions, or at least inform your guide. Okay, but please do attend the medical advice webinar in May. Brothers and sisters, I've gone through with you, and I think I'll open it up to questions shortly. I've gone through with you an extensive list of things in the context of where it's needed and when it's needed or may be needed. Here's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about Hajj. He does mention about provision for the journey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-Hajj ashhurun ma'lumat, فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج وما تفعلوا من خير يعلم الله وتزودوا فإن خير زاد التقوى واتقوني يا أولي الألباب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Hajj is during well-known months. We are already in the months of Hajj. The months of Hajj starts after Ramadan. Shawwal is the month of Hajj, Zulqada is the month of Hajj, and the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah is considered part of the months of Hajj. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the months of Hajj are well known. And so whoever then undertakes this journey, let him know there shall be no lewdness or committing sins or argument during Hajj. Brothers and sisters, no one wants to do these sins while they are at Hajj. Yet Allah is warning us to be aware of that. The reason being is we're likely to fall into it. You have millions of people there, different background, different tradition, different language. There'll be misunderstanding, there'll be some shoving and pushing. We're likely to fall into it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us, even though we don't intend to. Be careful, don't fall into it. It is part and parcel of whether your Hajj is accepted or not, as to how you behave. Remember that, your behavior is part of that. And so Allah says, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ. Whatever good you do, Allah is aware. And He doesn't define that good. Whether you're helping somebody cross the street, whether you're helping somebody with a wheelchair, lifting his luggage, he does not know, he's not even part of your group. A kind word, shaking hands with the person next to you after you prayed, saying salam, greeting, all of that is part and parcel of doing good. Whatever good you do, Allah is aware. And then He refers to what you and I have been talking about in different webinars and different chat groups that I'm part of. What should I take? What about this? Where did you buy this? Should I take this? And He says, and take provision for the journey. But the best provision is taqwa, consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You develop this taqwa in the month of Ramadan. The purpose of the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fasting has been prescribed for you as it has been prescribed for those before you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So you may become more conscious of me. You may raise the level of your consciousness of me, come nearer to me. And then right immediately after that, the months of Hajj starts. So what is required of you is that you're conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is that consciousness that will prevent you from committing these sins. It's not an automatic patience, I'll be patient. It's the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every word you utter, in every action you take. That is the provision which Allah says is the best provision you take with you. Yes, you can take the material provision. Yes, you need to know those things. And some of those things are important. But He's saying the best thing you can take with you, besides the material provision, is taqwa. And as if that was not sufficient, He emphasizes it. Wattaquni. Be conscious of me, O you who understand. So remember this. This is the provision you take with you. You need to develop that consciousness. Don't take anything for granted. Allah has honored you to come to His house, but He's expecting a certain behavior, not the rituals part, but in the interaction that you'll have with people, because Hajj is for everyone. So when people get upset for no reason, brother, you said the bus will be here. I've been waiting for 1 hour, the bus is not here. And all of a sudden, shaitan works on you and you start blaming as to why they're not organized well. That could have been better. I don't know why they do it this way. The Americans would have been better. Don't go there. Are you pressed for time? You think things happen there on time? I used to say in the previous webinars that as soon as you land in Saudi Arabia, put your watch away. You don't need it, because it'll be a source of discomfort for you. It'll be a source of strain and stress for you. You hear the adhan, you pray. You feel hungry, you eat. You're tired, you sleep. If you're going to go by the watch, because everything has to be lined up, it doesn't happen that way. And so it becomes a source of stress, and you will start into arguments. One of those things that Allah says not to do. But God forbid, start to backbite. That'll be a sin. That'll be a fusuq. So be aware as to why Allah is saying be aware. Remember, you can't do these things, He said. But we're likely to fall into it. But the best thing we carry with us is taqwa that's going to prevent us from falling into it. I mentioned previously, standing in Arafah, the pinnacle of Hajj, is a rehearsal of the Day of Judgment. For one day we will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here we are rehearsing it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does mention about going on the Day of Judgment. He says this in Surah Al-Shura. He says, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالُ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. The day when you will not be able to benefit from your wealth or from your children. None of that will matter. Illa, except for the one who comes to Allah with a sound heart. I cannot help prepare that heart. I can give you advice. You need to prepare that heart. It is your heart that needs to be sound to stand before Him on the day of Arafat, to plead your case to Him, to seek His forgiveness, to seek His grace, to seek His favor, to seek His pleasure. It is your heart that needs to be sound. And that rust in your heart needs to be cleaned from here on today until departure. You need to practice that. If you have any relationship that you have broken, sibling relationship, God forbid if it's parental relationship, go make amends. Go seek forgiveness. Even if the person doesn't want to forgive you, you go with sincerity in your heart to make amends. Let Allah handle the rest. You are trying to purify your heart. You're removing the malice from your heart. If you've done wrong to someone, go seek, make apologies. See if you can make up for that. You are cleansing your heart. You're preparing to meet your Lord, to stand before Him with a clean heart. That is the essence of Hajj. That is the essence of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For He says you will not be able to benefit all you've accumulated in this dunya, or how proud you of your children and what they've accomplished, except for the one who comes to me with a sound heart. To start that journey, visualize it, standing before Him. As such, how can you say, Allah, forgive me, when you cannot forgive your relative who has wronged you? Or you can say, Allah, have mercy on me, when you cannot have mercy on others, when you have the power and the ability to do so. So it's important for you to understand that is the heart that Allah is looking at, the sincerity with which you're coming to Him. And here is another ayah of the Quran, and this is in Surah Al-Hajj. It pertains to the actual sacrifice. Remember the sacrifice, the udhiyah, that everybody's going to pay for their Hajj? And Allah mentions, that the meat of the animal, neither the meat nor the blood reaches Allah when you sacrifice that animal. But what reaches him is piety, is taqwa from you, consciousness of Allah from you. That's what you need to nurture and develop from here on until you depart. That's the most important thing, right? Provisions are there, but remember the higher purpose. When you say labbaik Allahumma labbaik, I want you to go and read the meaning and put it in your heart, internalize it. You are actually responding to Allah's call. He has actually called you. Isn't that an honor? He's actually called you. And you're responding, here I am, oh Allah, here I am. Here I am, la sharika lak. There is no partner with you. Here I am. Innal hamda. Surely all praises belongs to you. Wa ni'mata. The blessings are from you. Laka wal mulk. Sovereignty is yours. You own everything. La sharika lak. You have no partners. You're not only responding, but you're affirming your faith in believing in Allah, but you're believing in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What a beautiful way to respond. Internalize that. That's what you're going for. وَلِلَّهِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ وَلِلَّهِ. You're doing Hajj for Allah and no one else. So put him in the center of your heart. As you visualize your actions, how is it beneficial to you? Will Allah be pleased with it? Your words. That is the journey you're undertaking. We'll be there to answer your logistics questions and all the other stuff. But you have to go through this process and purify your heart and make it sound, remove the rust and the malice, so you're prepared to stand before him and plead your case. For indeed, he is forgiving. Indeed, he is merciful. The Prophet ﷺ said, there is no day where Allah saves most people from the punishment of the hellfire than the day of Arafah. There is not a day in the entire year when most are saved from hellfire than the day of Arafah. And imagine you being called to stand before him on that day. How honored are you? So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant ease in completing this sacred journey and guide us to the best of deeds that is pleasing to him, and accept our Hajj and supplications. So I hope this has been beneficial to you. I'm going to stop now and I'm going to prepare for Q&A. I'm sure that Brother Ahmed would have opened up the Q&A and we would have upvoted them, because I can't answer all of them. I would like you to upvote, and so we can go through the process and answer those that have the most voting. So if you could probably do that for me, I'd appreciate that. Ahmed, are you there?
Yes, sir. And the questions are already coming in. May Allah bless you. Jazakum khair. Just one thing, Brother Azhar, before you begin. No updates on the refunds, brothers and sisters. You're welcome to send a message to Nusuk or the service provider to get an answer. The more people ask about the refunds, maybe they'll start working on it. So if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine, but we're not getting any answers on that, unfortunately.
Okay, let me just see what are the most. Can I wear a hat for shade? If you're a man, the answer is no. We cannot have anything on our head. We can hold an umbrella above our head, but we cannot even cover our face when we're sleeping, can pull the blanket over our head when we're sleeping. So definitely you cannot wear a hat for shade. If you're a woman, you can, but for a man, no. Are umbrellas provided? I believe the service providers, Hajj service providers said they would be providing the umbrellas, yes. For shifting program, what we will do after the 19th of June, are we staying in Mecca, heading to Jeddah early? Also, how are we going to be picked up for our custom flights arriving in Medina, leaving from Mecca? I think I covered all of that, Brother Muhammad. I've already covered this thing. If you're in a shifting program and you after June 19th, end of Hajj, Are you staying in Mecca? Yes, you're staying in Azizia, which is a suburb of Mecca. And you're going to go to Jeddah on the basis of your flight if you're leaving right away. How are you going to be picked up for your custom flights? If your flights are arriving in Medina and leaving from Mecca, if the custom flights that you've picked is part of Nusuk, then as I mentioned, this Hajj service provider will be there along with in coordination Dar es Salaam to pick you up from Medina, and but you're leaving from Mecca at the end of Hajj. Um, they'll pick you up from Medina and they'll take you to the airport after Hajj in Jeddah. If that's where you're departing from, you're arriving in Medina. I'm assuming the program starts in Medina. What's the PNR number we have on Nusuk website that showed up next to visa under processing? PNR number is typically your ticket reservation number. Sometimes it's a group reservation number. And so if you call the airline with a PNR, they will say it's a group reservation. We cannot help you. Wait till the ticket are issued and use the ticket number to speak with the airline. Can you clarify DST will provide transportation from Mina to Haram on the 10th, 11th, and Zulhijjah? I'm going to try to understand this question first. If you are in a non-shifting program and you're going to go from Mina to the Haram on the 10th back to your hotel, that's where you're going to come out of Ihram and shower and change and come back to Mina. That's the 10th. And on the 11th, the same thing. You will leave early in the morning to go to the hotel and come back in the afternoon. Yes, it's being provided to those who are in the shifting program. If you're in the non-shifting program, we only have one transportation, and that is to go for Tawaf al-Ifada and come back. It is not going to be a shuttle service for you to go and offer prayers in the Haram, because the actual benefit of Hajj is that you stay in Mina and you offer the prayers in Mina as opposed to go back and forth as such. So there's not a shuttle service to go and offer prayers in the Haram for non-shifting program. For non-shifting program, they go to the hotel at an odd hour. They'll go in the morning, shower, change, come back because they have to back before Maghrib, and then they leave after midnight as such. So I hope that clarifies. Brother Nouri asked the same question. How do we get specific information about transportation to Medina if landing in Jeddah with package in Medina first? As I mentioned, the service provider has not clarified that part. They will transfer you either by bus or train. Wait until we know more as to how they will transfer you. They will transfer you, as we said, wait till May the 7th when the tickets are issued, or May the 3rd. We expect some clarification on Abdul Latif Jamil's pro package where he had both flights mentioned in there, and we'll know better. But there will be one way or the other, the transfer will be provided, inshallah. You're saying how? We don't know yet. Flying from DFW to okay, with Emirates and then Dubai to Medina via Riyadh, you see the through Nusuk, how to handle transfer between the Riyadh terminals. My guess would be that you'll be in Riyadh and you'll be transferring terminals through the airline as such. I have no idea as to, I know if they issued the ticket to you as flying into Riyadh and then Dubai to Medina via Riyadh with Saudi through Nusuk, then Saudi will help you handle a change in terminals, or you can talk to the agent at the airport as to how to change terminals over there. It's just like changing terminals at an airport. Will we be able to take our backpacks to the Kaaba and do tawaf with the backpacks? Will they take the backpacks away from us? Well, normally what we see is that people carry their what we call the sleeping bag, shoe bag, which is the cloth drawstring backpack. That I've seen people carry. But if it's any bigger backpack, people they tend to stop you from that. I can show you what a drawstring backpack looks like. There's an example, right? This is one that Dar Islam normally issues, right? This is made of cloth, right? So this is easier. Something similar is provided by the service provider, or if you carry something that is easier, than an actual hard backpack. So I'm not so sure that they will. This is really up to the authorities in the Haram whether they will allow it or not. What if we want to stay up to the 13th as Sunnah in Mina and come back to Mecca after Rami? And can I walk from Arafat to Muzdalifah instead of the bus? If it depends on what's happening. When you say I want to stay to the 13th, depends on when are you leaving. Are you leaving after that? Your flight is on the 13th or early morning the 14th? Then you have to give some time because it takes a long time to actually get out of Mecca after Hajj that soon. So this is the part that we don't know when you in your question, and I don't want you to ask another question at this time. Okay. If you want to stay up and there's plenty of time, you can stay up and come back later, not a problem. As far as walking from Arafat to Muzdalifah is concerned, we don't encourage that at all, as such, because when we say we, I don't know we is. Generally speaking, it's a pretty long walk. It's about 3.5, 4 hours of walking. You will not be just separate from the group from Arafat. You'll be separate from the group all the way to Mecca. You wouldn't know where to find them in Muzdalifah. You wouldn't know where to find them in Mina until you return back to the camp in Mina. So I wouldn't encourage that. Will our
Assalamu alaikum,
passport
brother Azhar. If you can just elaborate a little bit on Rauda. I think there's a lot of people that are still stuck on understanding Rauda, making appointments on Rauda, understanding the significance of Rauda. This has nothing to do with the Hajj, right? This is a visit in Medina. The app, the Nusuk app, it's updated. If you've used it before, if you've done this 365 days, within 365 days, you can't do it again. Schedules don't open until 1 week before your scheduled time. So nothing you can do right now, really. But if you can elaborate a little bit, Brother Azhar, because I think some people are just bogged down with specific little elements and forgetting the bigger picture.
Brothers and sisters, you will not find a single hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, come and pray in the Rawdah. How about that? Not a single hadith. What he said is prayer in my masjid is 1,000 times better than anywhere else except al Masjid al-Haram. What is important is you pray in his masjid. That is important. Yes, we're emotionally attached to the Rawdah. It's a very limited space. And so they have created an app and you have to go make an appointment and the appointments don't open up till the 1 week before. Will I be able to help you? No. I cannot help people now with Umrah groups that come in, especially on Thanksgiving or December holidays. Everybody still has to make individual appointments. Can the service provider help you? We asked that question of them. They're saying we'll try to see if we can go as a group. Well, we don't know. But don't be hung up on that. You're not praying in the Rawdah does not invalidate your Hajj. The Sunnah is to pray in the Prophet's Masjid and go offer salams to him. So just stick with that and we'll see how it develops as to what happens with the Rawdah. Will our passports be collected or remain with us? All I know is the passport will be collected at the airport and the Hajj service provider will decide if they keep it until your departure or they return it later. So it will not be with you until they do some processing and then they will decide whether they're keeping it or returning it to you. That shouldn't be a concern to you at this time. Is DST providing water bottles, drawstring, backpacks, umbrella? No. Brother Noor, you saw in the configuration when you selected the package, maybe you can go back and look at it again in Nusuk, all the things that will be provided by the Hajj service providers. And those are the things that will be provided to you. If we're landing in Jeddah and need to travel to Medina, should we book train tickets ahead of time? I would say, first of all, that it's not going to open up for you to book anything until 3 weeks before. Second of all, just wait and see what the solution is going to be. If the Hajj service provider is transferring you, why do you want to go individually? Because if you go individually, it's not that you can go, if you're planning in Jeddah because the airport, the station is right there. You can go there. From when you get to Medina, what happens? Do you take a taxi on your own? If you do, where do you go? To the hotel? Do you know where that is? Do you know who to see over there to get your key? So don't get into that until we know exactly what service will be provided over there. Yes, you can buy it, but then walk through the process and see where you end up being. And you might find that you're frustrated, you don't know where to go, you don't know who to see. I've been here waiting for so long, nobody's helping me out, nobody knows about it. Just don't go there until the Hajj service provider gives an answers to what happens to such people. Many people are stating there is a specific type of meningitis vaccine to get, or when they go to pharmacy or like Walgreens, there's only one type. So the brand Menectra is contains ACYW135. So they're calling you by the brand name. The pharmacist is saying, I only have this brand. But what you're looking for is protections against different strains. A, C, Y, W-135 are the different groups you're protecting against. As long as Menectra can do that, you're fine with it. I wouldn't worry about it. Just get that done. For non-shifting Medina first, can you do tawaf first or after finishing the Hajj? Again, I'm not going to answer this question. As I mentioned, this is a fiqh of Hajj questions. Please reserve that for the fiqh of Hajj. Same question you're asking me that I just answered about if I land in Jeddah, can I take the train to Medina? Walk this one through. What happens when you arrive in Medina? Right? I mean, just wait till the service provider gives you a solution. Can Tawaf al-Wada be performed any time of day or of departure, or does it have to be right before leaving Mecca? You use some sense of judgment. If I am leaving tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, yes, I can perform Tawaf al-Wada at night time because we'll be asking you to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning from your hotel. So maybe you'll perform Tawaf al-Wada and pray Isha and come back. So we will give you that guidance when the time comes as to when to perform based on your departure time. Not a problem. It doesn't have to be immediately afterwards, before that. That's what your question was. It doesn't have to be immediately. You have to think through the logistics of thousands of people performing tawaf versus how long does it take to get to the airports. It could be hours before. But it cannot be something like, okay, let me do it tonight and I'm leaving tomorrow night. Well, you can't just do that either, right? How should we go to Medina airport to the hotel as I'm reaching around 12 midnight? Okay. Okay, Brother Zafar, if you're arriving on a custom flight that is already in Nusuk, no matter when you arrive, there will be somebody from the Hajj service provider to pick you up from the airport and take you to the hotel. And that's true for every program. Okay. My flight arrives Jeddah, programs in Medina. Okay. Again, this is a fiqh of Hajj question. My flight arrives in Jeddah, program begins in Medina. When do I enter into Ihram since I'll pass the miqat before landing? You'll pass the miqat before landing in Jeddah, but you're not going to Mecca. So you'll be outside of, you will not be in Ihram because your destination is Medina. Only when you're leaving from Medina to Mecca, you'll enter the Ihram before the miqat. Is sunglasses allowed for men during Hajj? Again, it's a fiqh question. That's not the purpose of this. You can wear sunglasses, you can wear a watch. Nothing wrong with it. But please refrain from asking fiqh questions here and give opportunity to those who want logistics question. Can I miss my flight from Allentown to Atlanta and fly directly from domestic airport to Atlanta to catch international flight? Seema, if you're saying that you booked a ticket from Allentown to Atlanta, and then it's a continuing ticket from Atlanta onwards on the same ticket, then if you miss the first segment, it automatically cancels the remaining segment. If they're two separate tickets, it doesn't matter. But if it's on a single ticket, you miss the first segment, the rest of it is automatically canceled. If we take our own transportation from Jeddah to Medina, what we need to do once we arrive in Jeddah, don't take your own transportation until the Hajj service provider mentions what happens to those who land in Jeddah and the programs begins in Medina. Don't take anything, don't make any arrangements until he clarifies what happens to them. Just give them some time. Okay, I'm going to ask this last question and then I'm going to wrap it up, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Based on this presentation, it appears that if I'm arriving in Jeddah via custom flight and in a Medina first package, DES and the provider will work on getting transportation to me from Jeddah to Medina. Is this correct? Yes. The Hajj service provider is going to provide transportation. We're working with them. They are responsible for providing the transportation. We're working with them to say, how will these people be transferred? Every single one of them. How will you transfer them? And we don't have the answer to that. So you don't go out and make your own arrangements until such time that we have an answer. You have plenty of time to make arrangements. Same question again. So I'm not going to repeat that.
If I may add one thing, Brother Azhar. However, sometimes some individuals are coming into the airport and they were able to find the Jeddah Medina flight, for instance. I mean, they're welcome to do that, right? Because if they want to do a ticket or an airline domestic from Jeddah to Medina, then they're welcome to do that, because most likely the transportation from Jeddah to Medina will probably be by bus and train. It will never be by ticket. So I think the only exception would be is if someone wanted to buy a ticket, a domestic, I would assume, right? What do you think?
My view would be that you can always buy that, right? I mean, by flight or by train or by any way you want to get to Medina, as long as the Hajj service provider knows this is where the person has landed. If you want to tell them that he's landed in Medina because he took a domestic flight, then let him know that it's from Medina that he needs to worry about. So that arrangements are made for him to get to the hotel.
Got it.
Right? So wait till we get an answer. Maybe we'll know. What did you say? May the 3rd was the date for that?
Inshallah, yes.
Yeah. So by next week, isn't it? That's next week, next Friday.
Correct.
So by
Correct.
next Friday, we should know what his plans are. We'll have extensive discussions with them. And then we'll be able to have a discussion on anyone who's arriving in Jeddah, program starts in Medina, and vice versa. Anybody arriving in Medina, program starts in Mecca. What happens and how did it get transferred? We'll have that discussion separately. We got that already. And we're waiting for them, because if you booked it on Nusuk through Al-Musafir, custom flight, okay, it was or their own group flight, and you picked a package which was opposite. The group flight was landing in Jeddah, but the package was starting in Medina. They placed that in Nusuk. So we want to know from them, how are they going to handle it? And we'll let you know accordingly as to what arrangements should be made. Can we wear an umbrella with a headband? For a man, no. Umbrella held, nothing touching your head, please. Okay. Barakallah fiqh, jazakallah khair. I think I've answered. The questions will remain open. I can always have, brothers and sisters, a special logistics sessions just to be able to answer it. But remember, none of the presentation I gave you had anything to do with the flights. And I was expecting most of the questions pertaining to what I have presented. But most of the questions turned out to be, I'm landing in Jeddah, how do I get to Medina? But hopefully you will find enough information in this presentation that tells you what to expect, number one, as plainly as I can mention it, whether it's temperature, whether it's crowd, and how to behave, that's important. And what do I take and when do I take it? And whether I need it or not. Instead of giving you a list that says, here are the things you should consider, I had to put a context to the electrolytes. I had to put a context to the SIM, and I had to put a context to the wheelchair. And so that's what I tried to do, so that you can understand, okay, it fits me, no, I don't need this, maybe I'll need this. You'll go through this process until you arrive at what is actually needed. So hopefully this is sufficient for now. The recording will be available, and hopefully it is of benefit to all those who have attended, inshallah. Until next time, subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.